Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's Jake Brady, and welcome to another video. Today, I have a deck tech on Myrel, Shield of Argive. This is a legendary creature that costs 3 colorless and a white. It says, during your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. And whenever Myrel attacks, create X 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens, where X is the number of soldiers you control. Now, I knew once this card got spoiled, this was going to be a really fun card. This is basically a Grand Abolisher commander that makes a bunch of tokens. I've been looking to build a new mono white deck, even though I've built I don't know how many, and I think this might be a real contender. I already have the deck built, plus I have some possible upgrades depending on how much you are comfortable spending. But let's get into this deck. This deck should cost around $100 to $110. This is what it's telling me, but you can always get stuff cheaper from what they are. First off, this is basically how we're going to be ramping the deck. You know, you got your Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Marble Diamond, Mind Stone, and then you're going to go with a Wayfarer's Bauble to get you that extra planes, and a Myriad Landscape, which will get you 2 extra planes. It's just a little slower, but I think it's great value. Moving on to protection. You know, you want to protect all these tokens, and of course your commander specifically, because he's the one making a lot of tokens. So you have a Bastion Protector, which this card will buff your commander and protect him from any board wipes, along with And They Shall No Fear. This is a 2-drop instant that you pick creature type. Obviously you're going to pick soldiers. This is a soldier tribal deck, and they all gain indestructible until end of turn. And you also have something like Unbreakable Formation, which, you know, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. And if you do cast this during your main phase, it could be a buff for your creatures, and they also gain Vigilance. So that's one way to help you through combat damage. Now, here we go through the main value of the deck. And this card is, when you look at this card, it's not a great card. But in this deck, it is going to be an overperformer every single time you put it on the battlefield. And that is Mentor the Meek. This card, whenever another creature enters, you pay 1 and draw a card. With your commander, you're making, I want to say, well, you're making at least 1 soldier every time. So that's 1 card at least. And if you have Mentor of the Meek, that means your commander makes 2. So you pay 2. This card is going to be like, pay however much you want, draw that many cards. The only restriction on this card is how much mana you have. If not, this card is going to draw you a whole lot. And I think this is an overperformer. It's always going to perform. I doubt there'll ever be a game. It's very rare instance where this isn't going to give you a bunch of value. Now, moving on, you have Cathar's Crusade. This is kind of like Mentor the Meek, but instead of giving you that draw, it puts a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Then again, your commander bringing in, I want to say on a good turn, 4, 5, 6 soldiers a turn. That's 4, 5, 6 1/1 counters on each and every creature besides those creature tokens, depending on which way they enter. Like, this is going to buff your commander, and commander damage is a very real possibility in this deck, because there's a lot of ways to buff soldiers, and your commander himself is a soldier. Next, we have Psionic Resonator. This is not only going to double, but it's going to add on the ones you just made. Soldier tokens you just made. You attack with your commander. Let's say you make 5 soldier tokens because you have 5 soldiers. If you activate Psionic Resonator, you're going to end up making 10 because you have the 5 you started with and the 5 you made, along with the copy of the ability. So it reads as you have 10 soldiers, so you're going to make 10. So in total, you're making 15 soldiers on that turn alone. Like, this deck, for only 2 mana, you double the amount of tokens you make. That is pretty ridiculous, and it's going to be really good. All right, and now the last bit for good old Value Town. You have a bunch of 1/1 soldiers. What are you going to do with them? Skull Clamp. Boom. This is kind of like Mentor the Meek, but instead you're drawing 2 cards per 1. And this will draw you into the pieces you need to most likely win the game, or I don't know, something. It'll draw you into something good. I guarantee you that. Now let's look at the main strategy for this deck. The main strategy for this deck is to get either like a Catapult Master, Court Street Denizen, or an Inspiring Leader, and you can win through combat either by exiling your opponent's creatures, tapping them, or just buffing them so much it doesn't. Blockers don't even matter. Now that's the main strategy. Here's another one you could blindside your opponents with if you have the mana for, and that is Halo Fountain. Halo Fountain is enchantment. It's an artifact that's 2 colors and a white. And it has a bunch of abilities. You can even tap your creatures to draw cards from this. This could be a value engine. But honestly, if you have this on the battlefield, it's not going to stick around long enough for you to generate a lot of value. I'm mainly going to use this as, boom, put it down for 3, tap it for the 5, untap the creatures after combat, and win the game. This is to blindside your opponents to win for 8 mana. I think that is very impressive and very good. Obviously, there's going to be games where you don't have 8 mana. So you can put it down the turn before and like pray it makes it to your next turn. You can run stuff like Rebuff the Wicked, which is in the sideboard, along with Savine's Reclamation that can either get it back and Rebuff protects it. It's in the sideboard if you want to run, if you like more protection than what I have. But this card can literally win you the game turn 7, turn 8 if you made enough soldiers between then. Finally, we move on to potential upgrades. And if you are going to spend over $10 on a card for this stick, it has to be Anointed Procession. This should be the first card you buy that is expensive, because this card will completely change the deck. It'll double the amount of soldier tokens you make each turn. So each combat after that is absolutely disgusting, and it's super threatening for your opponents. This card will make your opponents groan in no way you've heard them groan before once it goes off. Like this paired into a Hollow Fountain or a Surrounding Resonator, you could either get that done in a single turn. Like this deck is amazing. Now, if you go down in the link below, I have the deck list on Moxfield, along with all potential expensive upgrades in the considering, but I do not stress this enough. Anointed Procession should be your first purchase if you are going to spend a good amount of money. Other than that, you can pick through here. Not all these are super expensive, but there are different ways, you put to your liking which way you like the deck to run. It's here you pick and choose how you want to play this deck. But Anointed Procession, first upgrade, no matter what. Other than that, I've been Jake Brady. I hope you enjoyed the deck tech. If you have any suggestions or comments about how I made this, or about how I can make this video better, please let me know down below. Other than that, I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.